Whenever you are ready.
Okay, thank you very much. I choose this subject, this distillation, like example from this performance task assessment strategy, and I write only one understanding. Still will be understand that this distillation, like unit operation, applied to obtain some traditional alcohol beverage, has different adaptations to produce another food or industrial products using in everyday life. This is in general the idea of this understanding. And in order to assess this the achievement of this understanding, I propose to implement different activities. I can implement in different ways, but here I put with like collaborative working in small groups, and to make 4 different activities for each group, and one, the final, the number 5, a general for all the classroom group to make a final activity to finish this exercise. The first evidence is to make a graphical representation of different categories of distillation products used in everyday life. And I suppose that everybody knows, or everybody is able, and in group they organize their knowledge, their previous knowledge, in order to make a graphical representation of several products that other than alcoholic beverage, because the idea is to contrast between alcoholic beverage is a big point of this subject, but a complementary understanding is to apply this basic knowledge for integrate some other aspects. And the second group makes a collage of particularly of petrochemical products, using in this collage an image of fractional distillation process, and identify which are the more volatile products and the more heavy products, and make a graphical representation of this process. And the third group writes an essay on distillation applications to obtain essential oils, because essential oils are very important for food, for some food applications, and is different than beverage. And they can write why or what is the place of essential oils in distillation process related with foods. And the final group solves a particular problem for non-alcoholic food product distillation. And finally, all the classroom make oral presentations or each group make oral presentation of the final results of this performance task, and with these elements, we can assess. I don't know if it is the task, or maybe I need to add some criteria to make the essay, how many. And now another, I think that we can implement in different levels, because we can make groups and work out of the classroom and make a big work, or maybe we can make inside the classroom, and instead of speaking an essay, we can only reduce to write a paragraph, a more short work for a more short time. And if they have the elements or the materials, they can make the collage and the graphical representation inside the classroom. In this case, the solving problem, maybe we can reduce to formulating the problem only. I think we can make inside the classroom with a reduced version, or we can make a more big work. We give a week, but it's only a sketch.
Okay, Alex, do you have any questions, comments, suggestions for?
Well, yeah, maybe well, I think when you say criteria about how they're going to do the things, maybe you should think about how you're going to assess every of those evidence in order to get the if they how to assess if they achieve the goal or the task, if they get the understanding you post, and also when you say the performance task, think about the. I know maybe you're thinking how you're going to develop the performance task, but maybe to be more clear, write down the performance task using the GRASS framework.
Okay.
Because when you say this evidence is going to do it by one group, this other for the other group, but the main goal of the task.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I think it is necessary to give more elements of instructions about the execution of this task, but that changes if it's inside the classroom with more short time, because in that case I think that the feedback can be given oral and directly to in each case. For example, some students can say that you want, and I can answer to ask for more work or to put a different elements. But if they work outside the classroom, I think they need more elements and maybe to complete more formal instructional schema.
Because well, in my opinion,
Yeah.
I see that every group is going to give some information in order to, at the end, everybody can put together this information.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The idea is the end they share the results, and they explain in order to that all the participants can take advantage of the exercise of this task, this performance task. Thank you.
So are all of the evidence then part of one performance task, one general performance task? In your case, is that what you're proposing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the understanding in this case is to focus to other products, and this task is oriented to cover.
Thinking, I don't know, maybe just say in my mind,
Yeah.
the activity we did last semester when you say, okay, you're going to form groups, but you're going to think about this, you're going to have this point of view about this problem. So each of the students that think about the non-alcoholic food product come to this side and try to figure out how to explain this process like that.
Like a jigsaw, like the jigsaw activity.
Yeah, good.
Would the jigsaw activity work in this type of what you're proposing? Would that be appropriate?
It could be appropriate.
Remember the jigsaw where you formed original groups.
Yeah.
And then in each member in each group has a specialty. And maybe in your case, one would be the collage, doing the collage. It can be based on topic, or it can be on activity, like in your case. Because I think when we did it in class, we focused on concepts.
Yeah.
So experts in a certain area of knowledge. Then they created new groups, specialty groups. So the second group would be just each person in their respective specialty, and they describe and work together about how they would go back to their groups and explain it to the groups. It could be kind of like that, but I see maybe instead of based on concepts, it would be activity-based, like a collage, maybe a schematic.
The idea is good because maybe it could be more rich if we work in a jigsaw activity, because each group work about the 4 points.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And we can share different approach of the same subject.
So I'd like to contrast what you're proposing and what Manuel proposed last Friday. In his evidence, not all of his evidence are performance tasks. Okay, it's just another option. In his case, I think, I don't recall exactly, maybe the last one here was the performance task, drafting the law reform. But these others were not part of the performance task per se, right? They could even be quizzes. No, but he didn't mention quizzes. You didn't mention quizzes, but quizzes could be one type of evidence.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be a performance task, but it could be one of several types of evidence that you rely on to give a grade or to evaluate or to assess. So just to contrast, in Manuel's case, not all of his types of evidence were part of the performance test. In your case, you're proposing in some way they're all related to one general performance task.
Yeah.
And getting to Alex's question about thinking about the GRASP's framework, I think in your case especially, since you have all of these different types of evidence or activities, I think it becomes even more important thinking about what are the roles, for example,
Yeah.
of the students, right? What's the goal, right? And it's interesting, yesterday in the CCELL 1 class with your colleagues who are taking CCELL 1, we talked a lot about, because we're also talking about assessment, but we're talking about the GRASPS framework, when we're talking specifically about the goal and how difficult sometimes it is to come up with a goal for a performance task. Not necessarily an academic goal, not necessarily a goal related to like technically critical thinking. It's more like, what's the authentic, the real goal here in mind? And so think about, in this case, given your understanding, okay, this is what you want your students to understand. Think about the...
Because here my goal is not explicit, but is that the students may link the academic knowledge of this subject, unit operation distillation, link this knowledge with previous knowledge or with other applications that maybe they didn't work in these areas, but it's interesting that people identify that many everyday products that we use are obtained by this process, and that they can eventually develop new products in this area.
All right. Now think about, and what you just described is a very good example of an academic goal.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the academic goal. That's what you want your students to achieve. But when we think about the performance task goal, remember the very first criteria, the GRASPS framework, is goal. And if you remember those prompts, one said your goal is, your challenge is, your task is to do this. Those prompts are not academic in nature. For example, you probably aren't going to say, given the GRASP framework, you're not going to be talking about or present to your students, your task is to connect your prior knowledge to what you learned last. No. Even though that is what we want as educators for our students, and that is the goal overall academically, you want to present a goal or an objective that is based, and you say it right here, you say in everyday life. Now, what in this case, what is everyday life? What's a scenario that would bring together this understanding where they would have to do this in real life in order to show their understanding, to be able to show evidence of this understanding? What would be maybe an everyday situation, a scenario? What do you think?
You asked for which scenario they need to identify in order to accomplish the task.
Yeah, think about, because in the GRASPS framework, remember we have also situation. So we have goal, role, audience, situation, process, product, performance, and we have standard. So situation and goal come in hand. Like situation is the context, and the goal is the goal, the objective of that real life scenario. So put aside academic thought for now and think about the situation and the goal. So what's the context? Think about a situation in everyday life, you mentioned it here, in real life that your students would need to perform, to be able to do in real life that would demonstrate or provide evidence of this understanding. Can you think of a situation for your students that would relate to this?
I think they can interact between the small group in order to identify which kind of products they use that become from these issues, from this process.
But think about the profession. Think about, maybe they're not working now, but let's think about a profession or a professional context that directly relates to to their major, to something that, I mean, why are they even studying? You mentioned it here, everyday life. So what do you mean by everyday life? What would be something that they would do every day? Or common, some sort of common situation, presumably a professional situation. What would
because in everyday life we use a lot of solvents or energetic products, or maybe or a lot of pharmaceutical products, or some food additives, or there are.
What's the profession? Can you give me a profession?
It's
industry. What do we call it?
It's it's food technology. It's food the name is agroindustrial engineer.
Okay. What's a role? Think of a position, a job position. What kind of?
Normally they work in food process.
Okay. Food processing plants?
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe a manager?
Maybe a manager. Yeah.
Maybe a sales representative?
Maybe a sales or a commercial.
Working with clients, customers?
Yeah.
Maybe working with, I don't know, farmers, or working with...
That's right.
All right. So now we're getting closer now. Think of a situation.
Yeah.
What would be a situation, just a hypothetical, just kind of, and make up something. What would be where would be a situation where your students working as, let's say, managers, you decide, manager or...
Yeah,
or
the question is about what is the scenario formulation and the role of the students and the...
Right, we're trying to think about the goal, but we need to consider the role, the audience, and the goal. And
the grasp elements.
But yeah, what would be, let's think of a context, and then we can kind of work back and think about a goal. So what would be a situation? A meeting? Some sort of sales pitch? What do you think about this particular understanding? What kind of scenario would be appropriate?
It could be, for example, they have another subjects about developing new products, and maybe a meeting in order to propose new products for food.
Okay, all right.
And
right
the discussions.
So they're in a meeting.
Yeah,
they're in a meeting.
it could be.
So what would be the goal, given what you just explained?
The
goal
is to transfer some knowledge to new possibilities for answer this for proposed to make proposals for development of new products.
All right. So your goal is to offer new products. Hold off on transferring of knowledge.
Yeah.
That's kind of like education talk, right? You want to keep this goal as concrete and professional and that they can relate to.
Yeah.
Right? So you want to articulate this goal to your students so they know, okay, why are we doing all of this? Okay. So the goal is to produce or to offer new products.
New products.
To whom?
Yeah.
To who?
Using this particular unit operation. It's part of the context because they could make new products with many other techniques.
All right, so why is this technique better than the other techniques?
That is another part of some development procedure to contrast with other possibilities. But
Why is this better? Why is this better?
Why it's better? Sometimes this is the only one possibility to recuperate some products.
What do you mean recuperate some products?
To separate. For example, for essential oils, how you can obtain essential oils.
And why is that important?
Because new products have like some important components, essential oils.
Why do students need to know that to be able to separate the essential oils, this new distillation process? Why do they need to know that they can adapt it to other foods?
Some food additives are flavoring, and you need to add some source of flavor. And in order to do that, you need to know how to separate these flavors.
All right, so it affects the taste of the food.
Yeah.
So the distillation process affects the taste of the food. Is that true?
It's not affect that, but help to be more strong the taste of some foods. You like additives. You can add some essential oils and give more strong flavor.
And that's a good thing.
It could be.
Okay. All right. So the reason why I keep asking, I'm asking, well, why?
Yeah.
Why? What I'm trying to do is lead you to think about exactly what it is, why are your students doing this? And I'd like for all of you to really think about it. When you look at all your evidence, right, it should be very, very, very clear from a very practical and very easy way to explain, why am I doing this? Why do I need to know about these distillation processes? And the goal sometimes is the best way to articulate that reasoning. Based on what you're explaining to me, it sounds like they need to know this understanding because one of three options, or maybe all of them. Number one, it improves the way the food tastes.
Yeah.
Number two, it is either healthy or unhealthy, something about health. Number three, something about pricing. It's cost effective, it's not cost effective. For me, some way or another, it's about taste, health,
And cost.
and managing all of that with regard to all of this. So for me, the goal has something to do with one or all three of those things. It could be as simple as this. Your goal is to offer new food products that are cost effective and that taste good. There it is. I mean, it's short. I mean, it seems so easy. It seems so simple. And maybe you think, well, that's obvious.
Okay.
But maybe not. I mean, the point is that you put it out there because these performance tasks, you need to present these performance tasks to your students, right? In some way, right? Whether it's in written form or you're explaining it. So you need to be able to say, okay, the goal here, this performance, we're going to spend a week or 2 weeks on this goal. This is our goal. Creating good food that's healthy,
Yeah.
but it's cost effective. And you're in a meeting and you're presenting a new product, and then you can go into the details about the role, the audience, the situation, and all the details about the actual task. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good idea because with these elements, the students have the starting point in order to work, because if we don't clarify what is the goal, and they can think so different
Yeah.
things that
It's easy to confuse the
yeah.
goal of the performance test
Yeah.
with the objectives of the class.
Yeah.
Right? It's easy to confuse those two. So try not to confuse the goal of the performance test. The goal is something professional. It's not academic. It's not using English to do this. No, it's just saying this is the task, right? I mean, you could say that you're articulated in English, but it really is about the professional goal or challenge. Okay? Again, hopefully so that they can relate to what they're doing.
Because we need to relate the goal with the activity elements, not with the teaching framework.
Yeah, it's all about, and notice how when I kept asking you questions, sometimes I started with the situation, then we mentioned kind of the role sometimes. There's no right way to start. Right? The thing is, the GRASP framework, they all relate. So sometimes it's easier to start with the situation first. And then, okay, based on the situation, now I come up with my role and audience. Okay, based on that, here's my goal. There's no right or wrong way to do it. But at the end of the day, all of those GRASP elements need to obviously relate to one another. And then you look at your evidence to say, okay, how am I getting the evidence that I need in your case, in this performance test? Because all of the evidence is part of the performance test. And I think that's a great idea. We haven't really talked about doing it this way. This is
But
a very good way to do
I think I put in bold letters the elements of assessment.
Right, the only thing I would add, the only thing, because all of these for me, they're clear products. Graphic representation, for me, that's clear. A collage is something, it's a product. An essay is a product. Oral presentation is a product. The only thing I'm not sure about here would be number 4, as far as a product is concerned. So just make sure, think about all of your evidence in terms of both process and product in some way. Right? The process is obvious, number 4, solve a problem. But it's not really obvious based on what you're sharing here exactly what the product.
Maybe I can change the for evidence, that the idea is to identify or formulate a problem.
That's fine.
It's more
But
precise.
Well, but think about in what form. How would they articulate that? Is it going to be some sort of, I don't know, a report?
Yeah.
Even just saying a report, that implies something in written form. Or it's some sort of, I don't know, I mean, it could be anything. It could be graphic organizer, it could be anything. But try to indicate, like here, just as you mentioned here, graphic representation for me, that's like a graphic organizer. So that is I see the product. A collage, that's a product.
Yeah.
An essay, for me, that's a product. And an oral presentation, like a PowerPoint or Prezi, that's a product. But number 4, it's not clear to me what that product would be, because your students are going to ask you, teacher, you want us to solve a problem? Do you want us to write it out, or do you want us to record ourselves and share the recording? So you're going to have to tell them something. So the idea is to think about what product would be associated with each of the evidence, because really, if you don't have a product, you don't have evidence, right? It has to be observable. Evidence has to be observable and measurable. How do you measure it? And there's no indication here how you're going to measure problem solving, the process. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, so you don't have to decide now. I just wanted to throw that out there to think about. Whenever you're thinking about your evidence, think both process and product, regardless of what you decide to grade. Right? That's kind of the secondary. The first thing is that you're conscious of both the process and product, so that it's clear what your students are going to do and what they're going to produce. Any other comments for Ramon or questions? Okay, thank you, Ramon.
Thank you to you.